It is 5:17 on Sunday, January 26th. It's the last full week of my January term. I'll have 3 more classes, final exam, so technically 2 classes. And then I'll have a little bit of break. Still debating if I want to go home, but that's a topic for when that comes up. But when I was walking out this morning, or not this morning, when I was leaving my classroom after doing some work, it's 3 o'clock, and being winter and all, sun sets early, but it was a pretty clear sky, yet there were some clouds. And as the sun sets, the sky remains this cold blue color. And the clouds are this stark white, and as the sun sets, it changes to this orange-red, yellow, orange-red, to pink, to purple. And then as it's late at night, they're now darker than the sky, and then there's this dark navy that's silhouetted across the sky. And I don't know why, but I absolutely love that view. And just to me, I think clouds, I don't know what, they just mean something to me in a way. And I can't really tell why. Like, one of my dreams has always been to be above the clouds and to just look at them, like, flowing below me. I don't know, it's this feeling I've always associated with going outside and looking at the skyline and seeing the clouds in the sky as associated with the feeling of being free. Of not freedom essentially, but of like carelessness and just joy. And I don't know why, they just are. Like, when I was in the COVID year, my grandfather had this really old camera. Well, old is interesting, but an old digital camera. And hold on just a sec. And he lent me it. And I was able to take these photos, and I just have a couple of them. But the distinguishing feature about all of them are the clouds. And there's something about this camera and the way it was being able to capture the color. I mean, like the silhouette of the trees looking out onto this kind of yellow pinkish fluff it's something so serene and so beautiful, and to me it means something more than just something beautiful. 'Cause I look at something like that, and it just, I don't know, it just represents that feeling of carefree joy and freedom in a way. That comes with that type of joyfulness. And it's just an important feeling. I don't know where I got it from or why maybe it's because behind my house there's this field that's in this trail network that I go up to. And you're up in the woods, and as you step out into the field, you see the mountains in the background, and then the clouds start rolling over. And, or it's like, it's just something about that make me feel so, it's hard to explain, but this is like one of the things that I love the most. That I look at it and I just feel happy. And it's really difficult for me to explain. But I actually, in In how do I explain this? In boarding school, I had to do this thing where it was called a daily theme. And in English, some of the things that I've written, it was in 10th grade, was actually pretty good in retrospect. But there's one that I remember where I wrote about clouds. And, well, the thing is that we had to write about one of the main characters of our books. And we read Frederick Douglass's thing. And to me, clouds were always a representation of freedom and boundless sky. And so I thought it was very appropriate for the theme of that. And I want to read this out loud, but it's not the greatest because I'm not necessarily a very good creative writer or reader. But here it goes. Also, the one thing I noticed is that I say I too much in this one. It's a little annoying, but I was in 10th grade, and it was a thing that I had to write overnight, so this is not polished whatsoever. But wind blew in my hair. Not the type that blows your hair to the side in a direction that it isn't meant to be, but nature's wake-up call, as if the wind was calling me to follow. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but clouds. Not the sight that an everyday person sees by looking up, but how the gods see when it rains for us humans. God damn, this is cringe. I looked down at my feet. I didn't even notice, but there wasn't any ground that I stood on. I was flying, or floating, or stopped in time. I looked even further down. Somehow it was possible. The clouds below me were slowly moving. They were like cotton, but softer. No, denser. The movements were tranquil, as if each second some painter smeared the clouds across the blue sky. I wanted to move. I wanted to see the clouds, to touch them. Here's an instance. I messed up. I repeated a sentence. But what would happen if I moved against the will of the dream? Would I fall? Would I pass through the clouds to the ground below? My head would split, my body would be broken. Or would I just not be able to move? Am I a prisoner to the dream, only allowed to look on to what I sorely want? I was scared to move, but the need for knowledge of what I wanted encouraged me. I took a step and fell. I discovered that clouds were soft and extremely light. I got up. I wanted to see more clouds. The sun was setting and I wanted to see it. I walked across the clouds. They were bouncing me up and down. I kept seeing sight after sight. The light reflected off the clouds, making it more beautiful than before. I kept walking, then running. I wanted to see the next cloud behind the others. I wanted to see the colors, white, orange. Off in the distance, there was a soft pink turning to purple. I wanted more of this wonder. I wanted to see the next cloud, but I fell. Clouds were no longer dense foam that they were. No longer were the clouds the color of the rainbow. Darkness was all that was left. I wanted that light. I wanted clouds again. So obviously, not in very much so one of my best works, but that entire thing was me trying to capture that feeling of freedom and joy and just wanting to see the next piece of beauty beyond the next one. Like, what is over that next hill? Will I be able to see the same sight, or will I be able to see something more beautiful? If that mountain just moved to the left, is there something behind it? And clouds were sort of the prize, this something to search for, this unattainable thing in the sky that was the goal, this beauty, this joy, this freedom, that something that we aren't meant to apprehend, but we're meant to just see and enjoy. I don't know what I'm saying. It's really hard for me to explain why I feel this way about clouds. And that's the closest thing I got to something I put into writing. But it's just this feeling of being able to look outside and to look up and forget about everything that's happening and just enjoy something beautiful. It's never the same. That's always forever changing. You look at something, will never be the same thing as the next day or the next. You'll never be able to look into the sky and see the same thing you saw yesterday. And it's something about that just hits hard for me. And I've talked about this actually when I remember when I was watching the beginning video, or the beginning opening trailer for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And they got the clouds perfectly. Like, when it was dark, they got it so that they were silhouetted against the sky. But when it was light and the sun was setting, they got that color. And they got the density right. Like, clouds you don't want them to be smudged and blurry. You want to have some form, but not to be too heavy that they're rain clouds. That they're like fluffy and kind of airy, and like a feather, like a stroke of paint that lifted up slowly. That has that form, but then slowly dissipates into the sky. It's just so beautiful. And I love it so much. It's one of the most important feelings that I've had is watching the clouds roll over the mountains. Sorry for anybody who heard what I wrote in 10th grade. Of somebody who's a very short time span of, I think, one day it took to write that. But I don't know, there's that feeling of wanting to know what's over the next cloud, over the next mountain, and seeing the beauty in the colors. And the freedom to just be able to do that was something that it's an important feeling. And I like it because I can go out every day and look into the sky and feel that feeling again, just looking at the clouds and the colors against the sky, or the silhouette of the trees blocking the view, and wanting just to get them out of the way so you can just see it, or that urge to climb like a building or like a mountain so you can get a better view. It's just something about them that inspires me to want to do more. Because I always think that when I look at a cloud, there will be a better spot for me to enjoy that view. So I guess in a way, they're inspirations to me that even though, like, I don't want it to be like a lesson, but like, I look at a cloud and it's beautiful, and then I always think there's somewhere else where it's even more beautiful. And I just have to work for it, because then eventually I'll get there. Eventually, I'll be able to be above the clouds and see the view and see the sun set behind them. Eventually, I'll be able to do that. They're an inspiration to want to get somewhere better, because there is somewhere better. There's a better place to view those clouds. And right now, everything is great. The view is great. But if I work hard, I can make that view better. I don't know, that gets a little philosophical, but clouds are beautiful. And it's important. It's important to me.